Hey, all my clay makers at home. Here is the next part after you have a project and it's set. It's not bone dry yet, but it's what we call leather hard or leather dry. And because I think it's because it looks kind of like leather or suede, you can rub it one direction, kind of like suede. You know what suede looks like when you rub it. But it's the cleanup, and I find this to be one of the most satisfying parts of this project is the cleanup portion. So before we start cleaning up though, I want to go over edges because right now we've got a little some crummies down in here, and I've started doing this over here a little bit, and you can see where I did that in a previous video, but there we go. I can clean these off right now, but let's talk about glazing first because you have to have a plan. We all know I'm all about the plan. So on edges, you can have a curved edge where it's nice and rounded. All right, glaze will stick to that rounded edge right there. However, as soon as you get a nice, these are some glaze samples, as soon as you get a nice 90-degree angle edge like this, can you see how the corner of it right here, let's see right there, the glaze separates from it. So if you have a 90-degree angle, and you may do this on purpose for aesthetics, you want the look, it doesn't, it kind of separates right on that hard edge right there. Same thing, it happened right over here. I can show you another one that it happened on. Yeah, you can see the clay through the glaze because it doesn't stick to those 90-degree angle corners right there. So again, you've got the edge, nice perfect corner. So if you want a nice clay color line around here, my suggestion would be to make this a perfect 90-degree angle. Now, I'm just going to work on this right here, and let's make this a perfect 90-degree angle. Sometimes I prefer rounded, sometimes not, but this one we're going to make a nice 90-degree. Now, I'm going to try to not get rid of the patterning that she's got going on here, but I am going to take this, and it's like chocolate shavings. Super fun to do. Perfect 90-degree angle, and we will work on this one and I will round it for you. I will round some of the other ones, but let's get this so that we do have a nice line of a clay border right there. That's kind of cool. So again, I take this tool, my wire loop tool, and I am making this flat edge so that that glaze will bead up, B-E-A-D, and not form on that one nice crisp edge right there. And it'll kind of outline the project. So even when you're considering cleanup and glazing, you have to think about what aesthetic you want. What do you want that to look like? Do you want that nice edge? Do you want a rounded edge? Do you want the glaze to separate on that edge? These are all questions you need to be asking yourself before you start cleaning this up. Again, I think this process is one of the most satisfying. There's so many satisfying parts in clay making, but this by far is one of my favorites. So, because I like to see how perfect I can get it. Notice I'm being ever so gentle with this wire loop tool here. You can see that. And then, of course, you're going to be very careful with this. I'm going to dump those shavings off, and I'll put these in the garbage over here. Right there. Come back, work on a clean surface. I always make sure the surface I'm working on is really, really clean. So again, nice, clean, crisp, 90-degree corner. All right, I think you understand the concept there. Perfect. I don't want to go too far down and get rid of too much of that pattern. Okay, perfect. All right, now that this one is cleaned up, let's go on to a rounded edge. And this is going to make that, it's going to have a nice clay, thin line, terracotta, orangey line. Let's get rid of that. All right, I'm going to put this one aside for now. And we're going to now work on a rounded edge. This one's a little more dry, so you may get some of the squeaking sounds. You can see the difference in color. Here we have, this one's a little darker, this one's a little lighter, this one's dry, more dry. And that's why it's making that noise, which is why it's important to catch it in this phase. So I'm going to take out all of these little bumps and bruises over here. There we go. Kind of clean this up. All evened out. Beautiful edge. Now I'm using my wire loop tool here kind of on an angle because I am going to round this edge off. There's a bump right there. There's a bump in there. I can get rid of that. Look at little fine shavings. I'm not taking off huge chunks at one time. We are not, that's not the goal here. This is just cleanup of little rough edges. This is not huge chunks. Now I come on the back and I'm going to do the same thing. I love these little, they kind of come over the edge there. Crispy edges. Take those off, again on an angle this time, and you can see how this is going to round towards itself. There's a little nick in there. Let's see if I can smooth that out by taking off some of the clay around it. There we go. Nice, clean edge. Sometimes I like to come on an angle, not necessarily straight. Come on the angle outwards. You can even set it down and use the surface to help guide. There you go. I know, that noise. I'm sorry. Now the next part is going to be to smooth. So I'm going to keep a clean surface again. Put those little chocolate shavings over there, clay shavings. They're kind of like chocolate shavings. Take my sponge and dip it over here in water. Squeegee it out. And now I can take this. There's no pattern on here, so I'm not going to risk losing my pattern. And now I can take, look at how nice this edge is going to be now. We're going to make that nice and smooth and round. Beautiful. Let's clean this up really, really nicely. Oh, perfect. And this, my friends, is how you're going to get a lovely, smooth surface with rounded edges. I use that wire loop tool on an angle. There we go. Come around this flower, and I can even do some cleanup on this flower. You can see some of these edges coming up in there, and that's when you can take a smaller wire loop tool or even something like this and clean these edges up. But that's what you want. You want all of this to be perfectly clean. So come in here, clean this up. All right. Really tiny, teeny tiny little shavings there, but it's getting cleaned up really nice. Slowly but surely, we'll kind of dig in here a little bit. There we go. Come around that. Dig out in here a little bit. There you go. I have a brush here to help me clean this off. Remember, this is in its leather dry state, so it really holds its form. Come around on the back. Smooth that edge out. Beautiful. Get some more water. Clean out that one. Clean sponge again. Fresh water. It was getting a little too sticky. That water is going to help smooth. So before these projects come back, y'all, can you please make sure that they are perfected and they are ready to go in the kiln. Your initials are on the bottom. Smooth wherever needs to be smooth to make this ultra perfect, or at least the edges. And if you want this to be a little more pronounced, you can always come back and carve. make that a little more pronounced again. You can bring things back with your wire loop tools. All right, so here is this little flower dish, and I'm just gonna bring this down. Love it. Cute. Okay. Perfect. Ready to be fired once it is bone dry. We gotta let it dry completely first. All right. If your project is, oops, I just got my nail in there. This is why I don't wear jewelry. I keep my nails short if you're working with pottery. All right, one perfect piece of pottery ready to dry out completely and go in the kiln. Let's see if I can get that little nugget of clay out of there. All right, there's that one. If yours is a little too dry and you hate the sound of this, my suggestion to you, just wet that edge a little bit wherever you want to clean up. Just wet it down a little bit. Then you can go back and it's not as bad. But it's still not my favorite. However, if you let it get too dry, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of this sound. All right. Again, look at how all those crumbs on the edge have been cleaned up. Little by little. All right, I hope you all have find as much satisfaction in this process that I do. The final stages of perfecting and cleaning up the chocolate shavings. Okay, take this, wipe it off with my brush, get all those crumbs off, come back, and then go ahead and smooth over. If you have too much water in it, that's what's going to happen. So you really better make sure to squeeze this out. You don't want to rub on this too much because you will lose your stamps, and you don't want to lose the pattern that you have kind of embossed, pushed in there, stamped in. All right. I do need a little more water here. Go over this. Beautiful. All right. I mean, I could do this all day, but I'm not going to do this all day because this is your job to do. Nice and clean edge. Got to do the back still. And, but you know, your initials again in the back, cleaning up just those rough edges slowly but surely. Ta-da. And then we clean up the back from the pattern of the canvas board. This is dry, so it's soaking in the water really quickly. Remember, before you return any of your supplies, to please wash everything out. Don't return dried clay in a sponge like this. I would not appreciate that. Everything comes back nice and neat, cleaned up, especially your pottery. All right, that one's ready to dry out. And of course, there's one more, but I'm not going to do that one. Here's a nice edge that really needs to be taken care of. You can see all the crumbs right here that can be scraped off. So I'm going to go ahead, finish up cleaning up some of the projects that have come in while you guys at home work on cleaning up yours.